Hello everyone and welcome to DynamicsCon. In today's session you will learn 3 ways to replace Dialogs, LowCode, NoCode and ProCode. But before we jump into our session, let's meet our presenters. Andrew Butenko, he works at Hitachi Solution America. He's a technical architect. He is business applications MVP since 2010. And myself, Marina Butenko, I'm Power Platform Consultant at Hitachi Solutions America. Today's agenda is following. Andrew will walk you through history of Dialogs. I will show you how to replace Dialogs, NoCode and LowCode, and Andrew will walk you through how to replace Dialogs with a ProCode. And now I'm transferring it to Andrew, and he'll walk you through history of Dialogs.
Thank you for introduction, Marina. Let's talk a bit about the history of Dialogs. Dialogs were introduced as a part of version 2011 and were released, 10 years ago. In the next version, 2013, Dialogs got few updates, but did not inherit the changed UI of the system itself. With the transition of the UCI, Dialogs got deprecation mark. And what it means? It doesn't mean that Dialog won't work anymore, but it means it won't get any updates. And as you may notice, during the transition from the classic UI to UCI, Dialogs were dropped from the user interface. And Microsoft, based on the information from the knowledge base, recommends to use business process flow and canvas apps in order to replace Dialogs in scenarios when Dialogs were used.
Let's start with how to replace Dialogs NoCode. To do so, you can use Power Automate Flow, and there are pretty easy steps to create it. Create a flow, make sure that you use a Dataverse legacy connector, use a trigger when a record is created, add required inputs, and design your flow, and you're ready to go, ready to use it. So now I'm going to jump into a demo. So to create a flow, go to flowmicrosoft.com, create a new cloud flow, use a Dataverse legacy connector. You can just type in Dataverse and you'll see it pop up. Use a trigger when a row is selected. Choose your environment and the table name, which is in our scenario leads. Now you need to add the parameters. In this scenario you basically need 3 yes/no parameters to identify whether or not to create account, contact or opportunity. So I'm naming it create account, create contact and create opportunity. Next step is using Dataverse connector. Go ahead and find an action, perform a bound action. Choose your table, which is leads. Action name, in our scenario, will be qualifying lead. And choose a row ID from a previous step using Dynamics content. You can just type in lead and you'll see lead unique ID. For create account, create contact and create opportunity, you'll be using your parameters that you created in the previous step. So enter a custom value and use a dynamic content. For create account, choose create account. Enter custom value for create contact. and create opportunity. We almost done. So the next step, you'll need to make sure that you will pass a value of a status field. We need to qualify. In my case, the value is 3. So you can go ahead and save your flow, but before saving, the best practice is to name your flow. So name your flow. Let's name it lead qualify flow. I will save it one more time. So now it's ready to run, and I can demonstrate you how it works. I will refresh just in case. And okay, to qualify lead, you will simply need to go and pick a flow that you've created. So here is the flow that I've created just right now. This one is the flow that I previously created to test the scenario. So let's run this one. This will appear only first time when you're running your flow. So just press continue. And now you can pick create account, create contact, create opportunity to qualify your lead, or create only account and create only opportunity. Let's go ahead and create everything. It needs some time to create accounts and contacts. Let's see. Yes. As you can see, this lead is already closed. It was qualified. Yes, and account was created, as well as contact, as well as opportunity. Let's see. I need to change the view. And opportunity was created as well. So this is a simple way to qualify a lead with a NoCode. Let's talk about how to replace dialog with a LowCode. To do so, you will need to use a Canvas app. So create Canvas app, configure and design. I will show you this in my demo. And Andrew a little bit later will show you how to bin the write a small JavaScript and bin the code to the bottom, so you'd be able to use your Canvas app directly from a lead form. And let's go ahead and jump into a demo. So here is a simple Canvas app that I've created. It looks similar to Dialogs. Here is on start an application. I have simple formulas to capture lead's ID, and Andrew will talk a little bit more about that later. So here are the options: create new account, create new contact, and create new opportunity, similar to the flow that you saw, but here you can use existing account, existing contact, and existing opportunity. Here I have a variable that stores an existing account ID, an existing contact ID, and existing opportunity ID. When the user made a choice, for example, use existing account, use existing contact and create opportunity, or use an existing opportunity and create just contact, after user clicks OK, the flow starts to run, and I will show you the flow in a minute. Here are some parameters, values that I pass. I pass user's choice whether to create or not, create or use existing account, contact, or opportunity, as well as existing account, existing contact, and existing opportunity IDs. And after that, user will be navigated to a success screen. So let's go and see how the flow looks like. When you create a flow, you will choose the trigger Power Apps version 2, and here you will need to create parameters to store lead ID, yes, no options to create new account, create new contact, create new opportunity, and parameters to store account ID, contact ID, and opportunity ID. Once you've done that, you need to add a step with the condition to check whether or not you need to create a new account. So if you don't need to create a new account, that means you will need to update a lead with the parent account ID. It makes more sense to rename it. So if you don't need to create a new account, that means you will need to update a lead with an existing parent account ID. To do so, you simply add from a dynamic content your parameters, lead ID and account ID for parent account. You will do the same steps for contact, opportunity, and after that you'll do the same action, perform a bound to qualify a lead. So again, you pass your parameters lead ID, create new account, create new contact, create new opportunity, which are basically yes/no fields, and update your status to qualify a lead. So let's go ahead and see how it looks like. Here is my lead. So qualify using Canvas app. This will open a new tab. Let's choose use existing account and choose this test flow that was created on the previous demonstration, and create new contact and create new opportunity. So I click OK. Everything successfully completed. I can now close the window. I'll refresh browser. Now I can see that my lead was qualified. I can check accounts. New account was not created because I choose to use existing account for this to qualify this lead. New contact was created, and as well as new opportunity was created. So this is how you can use a Canvas app to replace a dialog. I'll go back to my presentation, and there's one more way to replace a dialog with a LowCode. You can use custom pages. This feature is in preview. Again, the steps are similar. You will create a page, configure, design, write a small JavaScript and bin the code to the bottom. This will be shown by Andrew a little bit later, and I'll show you how to create a page. So to create a custom page, make sure that you are on make preview powerapps.com, because this feature is only in preview. You can find your pages in a solution and create it from here. Go to new app and choose page. You can also create it directly from your model-driven app by going and pressing edit in preview. The only difference, if you go ahead and click add a page, choose custom and click next, if you're creating a new page, this will automatically show it in navigation. If you create a page directly from a solution, then you will be able to use an existing custom page and add it in your navigation. Once you've added a page to a navigation, you will be able to see it in here. So if you don't want your page to be in a navigation, I recommend you to create a new page from a solution, not from here. And you are able to add only pages. You can't add an existing Canvas app to your navigation panel. So let's go back and see the page that I've created to qualify a lead. So it basically looks like a Canvas app. You're able to add controls in here. So it works the same like a Canvas app that I showed you before, but I had to create it separately. And it has the same logic. When a user presses OK, the flow runs and creates a new account or updates lead with an existing account. So let's go and see how it looks. So when you choose to qualify a lead using custom page, it looks a lot like Dialogs. It doesn't open in a separate tab and looks pretty cool and better than embedded Canvas app. So this is pretty it from my side. I'll transfer it to Andrew.
Marina mentioned that in order to open Canvas app or custom page, it is required to develop a really super short JavaScript. So before diving into something that is more complex, let's revisit JavaScript that was used to open Canvas app and custom page. Now on the screen you can see two functions that were used to open Canvas app and custom page. Let's go through the first one. So this line is used just basically to get the ID of the current lead. On the next line I concatenate the URL of the Power App and the record ID and pass it as a record ID parameter. And on the next line I'm basically opening the URL using window.open function, and that opens the dialog of the in the Canvas app format in the new window. Code of the calling of the custom page is slightly complex. So firstly, I request to store the changes that were performed on the form to make to submit all the change performed to the server. After that, pretty much like in the previous function, I'm using this code to get the record ID, and after that I'm using xrem.navigation.navigate_to and passing few additional parameters. The key parameter here is page type. If you're familiar with xrem.navigation.navigate_to function, you may know that using this function I can open the view, the entity record, I can open the web resource, etc, etc. And with the release of custom page, even for the public preview, Microsoft introduced new page type, and it is called custom. In order to open the particular custom page, I have to pass the name of this custom page, and in our case it was this CREEA underline QLead underline and this 6B239 randomly generated number. In order to provide the context in which record was opened, I used two parameters: entity name, where I pass the entity name, that is the lead, and record ID, where I pass basically the record ID that I was that I retrieved on the one of previous lines. In order to show the record in model mode, I use the target type 2. I provide the height and width of the dialog to be shown, and I provide the title that will be shown at the top of the dialog window. That's pretty it. As you may see, it is the code, but it is not that heavy as the code that I will show you just in a few minutes. And now it's time to take a look on what I prepared for pro developers. If the dialog that you plan to develop needs only simple input controls like checkboxes, drop-downs or text fields, and it doesn't have any kind of sophisticated logic or dependencies, you can rely on the solution that I created for community. You can easily get it from my GitHub. You can go there, download it, install, and call it from your JavaScript code. And once dialog is called and result is entered, you can process results in the way that you want. Once the code is written, all you need is just to bind the JavaScript that you wrote to the custom button. Now on the screen you can see the function that is used to qualify the lead using AB dialogs. In order to configure how dialog will look like, it is required to pass the configurational object. Let's go through properties of this object. The first property is dialog header text. It actually contains the label that will be shown at the top of the dialog. The next tabs is an array that contains a set of tabs that can be shown. Let's say you have multiple fields that you want to enter, and if all of those fields will be shown on the same plot, it will occupy a lot of space and it would look really clunky. So I came up with the idea with the possibility to split those sets, two tabs, and show it separately and organize it in a wizard way. In this case, I will have only three controls to be shown. So I have only one tab, and that's why I don't populate the tab header text that can be configured as well. The property of the tab object that describes the list of the fields that will be shown on a particular tab is field settings, and it is an array of the fields. Let's take a look on the configuration of the particular field. The first property is field type, and it describes what type of the control will be shown. It can be either boolean or string or whole number or drop down. The next property is label, and it stands for its name. It's actually the label that will be shown in front of the control. Name is the internal name that will be used when the object is returned. Value is the value that will be set by default. So if you want preset some value, you can pass the initial value of the particular field using this property. Specifically for Boolean type of fields, I provided the possibility to use special styling. So for Booleans, we have three options. It can be either toggle or checkbox or drop down. For both values, false and true, because this is the Boolean one, I provided the labels that will be shown for, in this case, for field that will be used to define should I create new account or I should use existing one. Exactly the same configurational options I have for contact and opportunity. Once this object is configured, all I have to do to open the dialog is to call abdialogs.open, passing the configurational object to it. And this function will return the promise that will be resolved when the dialog either closed or all the values are entered into fields and OK button is clicked. In case when user closes the dialog using the cancel button or the cross in the right top corner, the result will be null. So in this case, I will just leave the execution of the code. Otherwise, when values are provided, I just use xrem.webapi to qualify the lead. And the code and the values returned from the dialog you can see on these lines. What it does afterwards, once the qualified lead message is called and it processed successfully, code gets opportunity account contact created, and if opportunity was created, it navigates to opportunity. If account was created but opportunity was not, navigates to account. And if only contact was created during the qualification and account and opportunity were not, then code navigates it to contact record. Let's take a look on how it works inside the system. Now let's take a look on how this code looks like in action. So I'm on the form of the lead with the topic test lead, first name, last name Andrew Butenko, and company name Dialogs. In order to run the code that I just demonstrated on the custom qualify dropdown, I have qualify using AB Dialogs button. Let's click it. As you may see, the dialog that popped up contains all the information that I configured using the configurational object that I demonstrated. Header, fields, types of the fields, etc. So in order to qualify the lead, I will leave it as it is. I will use the create new account option, create new contact option, and create new opportunity option. So let's assume that I selected all the options and I click OK. And after lead is qualified, I immediately navigated to the new opportunity. And as you may see, the topic was transferred, account Dialogs was created, and contact Andrew Butenko was created as well. The next stage in my presentation is called even more ProCode. Let's take a look on what I have. If the dialog is sophisticated enough, has a lot of internal logic, dependencies, validation, and something like that, there is a point to build the dialog using the tools that are on your tool belt. So it could be just HTML, CSS, JS, it could be Bootstrap, it can be Kendo UI or Angular, but my preference is React and Fluent UI. You can ask me why, and I have a good explanation for you why. Actually, all the interfaces of UCI are built using the Fluent UI. So instead of trying to make your dialog look like native component on the system, you can just take and use whatever is available in the Fluent UI, and it would, in order to make it look native, it would require just slight tweaking. So the dialog that I will demonstrate in a few minutes, I built using the VS Code, React, and Fluent UI. Let's take a look on steps that are required in order to perform the coding of such dialog. So first step is I believe is the biggest one. It's basically building. When you're designing and testing your HTML, JS, CSS, React, Fluent UI application, and once you are satisfied with the result, you're uploading the files to the system as HTML, JS, CSS web resources. The next step is actually again coding, in which you will have to write the JavaScript that will be used to open the dialog, pass parameters inside, wait for the response of the dialog, and process it in some way. And the very last step, I believe it's the one of the simplest here. It is just binding of the code that you produced on the previous step to a button in the system. Let's take a look on what I have. Before jumping to the Visual Studio and showing you the code, I will demonstrate how the dialog that I created works. So it is exactly the same lead that I demonstrated before, and I will click Custom Qualify, and instead of choosing Qualify using AB Dialogs, I will choose Qualify using Custom Web Resource. Let's click it. As you may see, dialog that popped up is really similar to the one that I demonstrated before, but let's click on this toggle. As you may see, when I click toggle and the label is changed from create new account to use existing account, new label and new field are shown. So this is just the label and the red mark that shows that before leaving the dialog, this field has to be populated. Let's try to enter some company name and see what happens. As you may see, when I start typing, I get the list of companies that are started with A. Let's choose one of companies. So as you may see, this company was selected. Once the company is selected, I can either keep populating fields or changing the records that will be created or used existing during the qualification. But I will leave it as it is. I will choose use existing account and account adventure works. New contact will be created and new opportunity will be created. Now let me click OK. Qualification is happening and this is new opportunity. And as you may see, contact is the contact that was created from the context of the lead, and account that was used is the account that I select in qualification lead dialog. Let's take a look on what is under the hood of the lead qualification process that I just demoed. So this is lead qualify custom web resource function. And here is what it does. Firstly, it obviously stores the information that was entered on the form but was not submitted to the server. And after that, code starts to populate the dialog parameters object that will be passed and contain all the object and all the information that is relevant to lead qualification process, like existing account, existing contact, existing opportunity, and toggle default values for toggles that will be shown. There is no direct way to communicate with the dialog window, unfortunately. So the workaround that I use is the passing of this data in a string format through the session storage. Session ID is pseudo-unique ID that I generate, pass it to the dialog. And here is the piece of code that you have already seen before when I explained on how the custom page was opened and demonstrated. It was done using xrem.navigation.navigate to function, but parameters are slightly different. Instead of page type custom, we have page type web resource, and instead of the page name, we have web resource name that basically points to the HTML web resource that is used. Data is the additional parameter that can be used to pass the data to the URL that will be opened, and I use it to pass this pseudo-unique ID that will be retrieved on the side of the dialog form. Navigation options just used to format to format the dialog and how it will be shown. So target to, width and height, position in front of everything, and title lead qualification dialog. Once xrem.navigation.navigate to with parameters is called and callback is received, code tries to receive the information that was selected inside the dialog through the session storage as well. And based on the code that was developed on the side of the dialog form, if callback data string is blank, in this case it means the user just close the lead using the cancel button or the cross in the right top corner of the dialog. If it is not, this callback data string will contain the data. And what code does in following steps, it just stores the information if user selected either a need to create new account, create new contact, or create new opportunity. If user wants to use existing, this information is stored in corresponding fields and form saved one more time. And once it is completed, the qualify lead message is used again, pretty much the same way it was used inside the A/B dialog scenario. And once the qualification is completed, the code navigated to the very first record that was created. So if opportunity was created, it will be navigated to opportunity. If it was created to some other type of record was created, it will be navigated to that type of record. Thank you for participating in Dynamicon and visiting our session about dialogues. So if you have any questions to Marina or myself, feel free to ask.
Okay. Hi guys, thank you for watching our session. We've seen some questions being in the chat. So David asked, is it safe to use legacy connectors in Power Automate? Yes, it's safe to use legacy connectors in Power Automate. So until Microsoft didn't release any other connectors, you can use legacy connectors. So Sarah asked, are custom pages available on premise? Unfortunately, they are not available on premise, and they are in. So she asked. So Sarah asked, is it available as beta and in Power Apps? It's available as a public preview.
And I believe that's pretty much all the questions that you got. I hope that you satisfied and enjoyed our presentation.
No, not that. So Daryl asked, is this example code in your GitHub account?
Okay. Hello, Daryl. This example of the code is not on the GitHub, but can you be please more specific regarding the type of the code? You were talking about the type of A/B dialog usage or usage of the React application and like building the whole dialog as HTML web resource. So if you're asking about the A/B dialogs, it is I can bring it as an example of the code usage. So if you're interested in it, I can definitely put it on my GitHub account. If you're talking about the React app, I'm sorry it's not available, and it won't be because it was built for a customer and I use it just for demonstration purposes. But potentially, I don't know, maybe some kind of reincarnation can come as a part of A/B dialogues. I keep thinking about it.
So Daryl says using both the A/B and React.
Gotcha. So A/B, I can bring it to the GitHub. Regarding React, I have to think about it and ask if I'm allowed to, because the dialog was built specifically for one particular customer and they wanted to have that. I don't know how everything worked from the legal standpoint. I will have to discuss internally if I am allowed to bring that code online and share it, because technically it's not mine. It belongs to Hitachi and to customer.
So Mark asks, can you use multiple custom pages, go from page 1 to page 2? Yes, you can use the layout similar to a Canvas app, and you can use it. You can go from page 1 to page 2. You can go from custom page, for example, to accounts or contacts.
I believe Mark asked about if it's possible to have like multi-step dialogues and within Canvas app or within custom page.
Yeah, it's possible. You can. There's a setting you need to. Once you start building a custom page, you need to specify that you want to have multiple screens. So you need to turn on this feature while you're starting to build your custom page.
And generally speaking, custom pages, they are kind of super similar to Canvas apps. So with Canvas apps, it's possible to transition, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a Canvas expert here, but if I'm not mistaken, it's possible to transition from one screen to another screen. And so in this approach, it could be possible to implement this multi-step dialog approach as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Ooh, guys,
as far as I know, yes.
So I'm Canvas expert as well. Ooh.
So I see Geoff commented, you guys were great, thank you. My no-coder eyes glazed over a little bit when I saw all the code, but it was great to see the possibilities. Yes, I understand you, Geoff, a lot, because for me it's the same. Like when I heard no-code, low-code, and I see all the code that you need to write when you do Canvas app, it's all the code.
Technically, it's low code, but it is still the code.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have anything else?
I guess we answered all the questions. So maybe you want to talk about something else.
Okay, so guys, just curious, put in the chat what feature from your perspective, what approach from your perspective you liked more. We have the chat, so I believe so. You have three types, three approaches: no code, low code, and hard code. my part, pro code. So I am just curious. Can you just put in the chat what would be your preferable way? Because I believe if you are here, you are interested in session, and potentially you can face some kind of this scenario. So I'm just curious, your opinion. What would be your weapon of choice in this situation? No code, low code, or pro code? I understand that I'm at the moment I'm talking about only online deployments, because like Canvas apps and custom pages and even Power Automate not available for on-premises. I don't want to say yet because I'm not sure that it will be ever available. But I'm just curious, what's your weapon of choice?
So for now, I see low code wins. Custom pages. Yeah, I'm waiting them to be not in a preview. I like them a lot.
Yeah, and actually these custom pages is just super extremely helpful features. And quoting Scott Duroff, who brought this like few years back, this paradigm of two different types of applications and why do we need it? Why do we need Canvas apps? Why do we need model-driven apps? With custom pages, you see those pieces are starting to get to be pretty much the same thing, and like they start to collide, if you would. And like this evolution is just incredible. It's like, because it will be possible to take both the best pieces of two worlds, like the flexibility and really great variety of choice available with Canvas apps, and combine it with the data-driven, if you would, approach related to model-driven apps. So those two pieces of the puzzle, when they will like ideally match, I believe it will be huge. What do you think about it? Are you excited to see those worlds to collide?
So I see one comment, Natalia, she likes custom pages with the code instead of flow.
Custom pages with code instead of flow.
I think it's interesting.
It is definitely interesting, but the main challenge here is how to return the data from custom pages. And like I believe it's some kind of a mixture of the approach that I use in my AB dialogs to visualize piece, but like use the JavaScript in order to call the code and do something under the hood. And the main challenge here, I believe, is how to return the data from custom page. As far as I remember, then there is no like direct way to communicate. It's possible to transfer something into the custom map basically through the URL, but to get the data back, it will be required to either wait for Microsoft to give some kind of approach to get this information from this custom page, or build something. I believe that we're using the PCF control and something that could be used to transfer the data, either again session storage or something like that. It's definitely doable. But other than that, I believe this like mixture approaches can be a great fit. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, so I think low-code wins. Everyone's excited about kind of custom pages, and no-code, low-code when it's possible.
Okay. Okay, so I believe we have just 3 minutes left. So I'm really appreciated for your time, for spending this morning hour with us, with wonderful Marina.
And you want me to say again? and wonderful Andrew.
Thank you. And we are Butenkos, and I hope see you soon somewhere maybe in some the real event and not only in virtual. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
see ya.